Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of The Monsters Den. It's Thursday night here on the channel. We're talking horror movies as always. We've got in the house tonight. We've got the Double Dans, Dan Mailer from up in Canada, Dan Brown from here in Newburgh. We've got Jamie Laszlo from Ohio.
So
What's that?
I said, "What's up?"
Oh, what's up? I thought you were correcting me. It's like, no.
No,
So tonight we've arrived at the Jordan Peele film ranking. So we've been talking about doing this for a while. Jordan Peele has been much talked about over the last couple of years as a hot kind of new director. He's been around for a while as an actor, but he's been doing some writing for films and now directing. He's got three films that he has directed on his own. He's got other films that he's worked on where he's written, but we're just concentrating on the three director and writer films. So, of course, I'm talking about Get Out from 2017, Us from 2019, and Nope from this year, 2022. That's what he's got so far. We've all watched them maybe a couple times each. We're going to rank them in the order of our preference. So we'll start up in Canada for we'll go Dan, Jamie, myself. We'll each go around till we get to our number one favorite. So Dan, you're number three, and I guess we could talk a little bit about each film, just in case people haven't seen them or don't know anything about them. We'll try not
sure,
to give like lots of spoilers away on this one, but we'll talk about why we like them and or why we don't like them, right? So go ahead, Dan.
Absolutely. Okay. So I'm going to start. My number three is going to be maybe no surprise to the panel here, or maybe perhaps I'm starting with Nope as my number three. Yeah, the most recent of Jordan Peele's output. This one seems to have, I don't know, I want to say it has direction, but it seems also a little bit convoluted and disjointed at times. Comparing it to his first movie, Get Out, and then his subsequent movie, Us, I find it's a huge dip in terms of quality. I want to say the acting, and the most surprising thing is because the main actor in this movie in Nope was also the main actor in Get Out, and it's almost as if it's a different actor. I just visually, maybe he's gained some weight too, but that's just an aside. Just his performance, I want to say it was lackluster, but that's kind of a perhaps an understatement. Perhaps that's how he was directed to play more of a simple type of individual, and in a very, very complex situation that he finds himself in, and having to navigate through those waters, unsure of what to do and what to make of the situation. But it never gripped me. There were aspects of this movie I found that had promise. Initially, it was really intriguing, like what's going on. This man is hit in the head while they're on a far. I'm not going to give too much of a synopsis for any of these, but just the beginning is this main character with his dad, and dad gets hit in the head. We don't really know what's going on, what happened. He dies. And then subsequently, we're left with this individual, the son, as the main character, and his sister, who comes along shortly thereafter, and another couple characters, another side character. I found his story the most intriguing, and I found the scenes revolving around his story. Again, just that in itself would have been a phenomenal movie. I'm alluding to a scene with a chimpanzee on a movie set or a TV set who goes ballistic. And I do want to give props to the fact that Jordan Peele, I knew him from Mad TV, and then he had his own show, Peele and there you go, who also was on Mad TV. They were co-stars. And so he's a very funny guy. And the thing with these movies that we're all going to be reviewing, I don't even classify them as horror. I guess there's definitely horrific elements, but he also intersperses, comedic elements, and he does it very well, quite well. In this particular movie, the highlight to me was this one scene I'm talking about on a TV set. But we're also referring to there's a deeper there seems to be a common thread through all his movies I find less so in this. It's here in this particular installment in Nope. It's just not as, I don't find it's done as interestingly, and it's not as compelling. The narrative or the sort of the theme that he's trying to bring home. It's sort of, you know, regarding animals and how to sort of tame animals, wild animals, how to give respect, you know, how to respect animals, and not to sort of regarding this particular chimpanzee on the set, you know, using it as sort of a prop and taking advantage of it, exploiting it perhaps, and then all chaos ensues. So there's that similar theme that runs through the entire movie. We don't know what's going on. We think there's a spaceship. It turns out it's not really a spaceship. It's something else. And we follow this particular character and his sister, and then another little side character, an IT guy who's not at all interesting to me. And it keeps going, and it goes for 2 hours and 10 minutes. And these drawn out scenes that could have been minimized and reduced in length. I don't know what they were really trying to establish. There's almost no dialogue, at least with the main character. I mean, he barely speaks. You know, I don't know, again, if that's just supposed to be his personality. He's a man of action, not a man of words. We don't really know. I just find he was either underplayed on purpose, or the actor just was phoning it in and really he wasn't drawn to this script, and he didn't really have a lot of energy, or there was no animated type of this particular actor, his original character in Get Out. I'm not saying he was all over the place and, you know, but there was energy, he was dynamic, there was range. None of that here present. And I just found it tedious to get through. There weren't a lot of highlights throughout the movie. I found it interesting. I mean, they definitely were trying to decipher and find the best plan of attack to, destroy this particular flying object, animal in the sky that was a predator. And I don't want to give away too much, but because it's a fairly recent movie, I think it came out this past summer, but it just did not captivate me like his two previous installments did. And I know there was reviews that initially there were rave reviews for this movie. I don't see it. I know it's intelligent. I know he has to deliver a message. That's what he does. There's his two previous movies was more political, social messages. In this one, I just think it's, you know, be kind to animals, respect animals, don't exploit them, don't you know, because otherwise they'll come to get you and they'll attack you. And if you don't respect them, they won't respect you. So that was the premise, but I just found the delivery, I found the actors, I found his sister to be a little annoying at times, too over the top while he was too under the top. And the side characters, not interesting. There were some, I will give prop, there were some really cool scenes. I love the landscape. I love the cinematography was really good. It was done exceptionally well. The score was good. It was well made. It was well directed. It was well produced. Visually, it was very compelling. But on an acting level and on an actual script and the story, I just found that they should have gone back and, you know, edit this, you know, tremendously, chop off at least a half an hour to 40 minutes. I just find it really could have benefited from a shorter, tighter script and, better dialogue, give the main character a little more energy and just make it more interesting, because it lacked that tremendously. And I found it a snooze fest, I hate to say, because I really enjoyed his two previous movies. One more than the other, but upon second viewing. But yeah, I think that's where I'm going to leave it with this. There's not much more really to go into. I'm not going to go into, to the plot and all that and synopsis. I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, it's up to you to decide, viewers, if you want to watch this or not, but it was hard to get through and it's long. So I'll leave it at that.
All right. So one thumbs down for Nope.
Yeah.
Number 3. All right, Dan, you're number 3.
I've got to go on what Dan says. I have to put with Nope. Number one, as Dan had said earlier, It is long, and it appears that the segment where they are out there to kind of like corner this entity that's causing all this problems, that just dragged and dragged. The only thing refreshing in that section of the film was the guy who was the filmer or the photographer who wanted to capture the moment, which is like Michael Wincott, who back in the 90s was the go-to raspy voiced villain in films. Matter of fact, he plays Top Dollar in the version of The Crow in 1993, among playing Guy Ginsborn in Kevin Costner's Robin Hood and a few other things. He always managed to play. And he was kind of, when he was on screen, I always found him rather enigmatic in the films he was in a supporting role. And here he was kind of subdued, but whatever, but he was the more interesting. True. The lead actor, I think he was told, the guy's got, I can't remember his name, I apologize, but he has quite an itinerary under his belt. I just think he was told, I think he was trying to be playing a guy who really didn't want to be in that business. And his sister had ran off, I think, and the father, who's Keith David, who was Childs in The Thing, he, like when the father ups and dies, he's kind of handed this. I think the more entertaining thing, it appeared, Jordan Peele tends to like these red herring things. And when I say red herring, is that, when I watched it on, not on Blu-ray, I watched it on streaming. So I turned it on, and in the beginning of the movie, as you see, there's like, as opposed to Cocaine Bear, this was like Crack Chimp, and the bloody set, and something goes awry. And I thought it was a trailer, coming on Amazon. I'm going like, God, this is right up my alley. This is going to be great. I don't know. I don't know if I was going to say it's in the mistreatment of animals. I think it was kind of where since Jordan Peele is such he loves horror. He's a student of film, and he studies so many directors and so many things he was influenced. And probably like myself, like I was an only child up to the age of 10, and he was an only child. And there was a time when I was growing up that you would sit and watch these movies during the day and night. This was your entertainment. And it became, they influenced you in things you did and the way you enjoyed films. And I think that's with him. And he pulls all these different things from different movies. He touches upon everything from Encounters of the Third Kind. He also plays on a segment out of like War of the Worlds, the Steven Spielberg one. I just love the fact that there's Stephen Yeun, Academy Award nominated actor, once Glenn on the Walking Dead, playing this guy. It's so, these red herring things, they have really nothing to do with the plot, but they do. It's not the end all, and he's a child actor who has an association with the Crack Chimp, and he's kind of damaged. And then all of a sudden it's like, he ends up turning into almost like, what's his name? Belloc in Raiders of the Lost Ark. When they open the Ark, he's like, oh, and boom. So I'm not going to give away what happens, but it's not really part of the plot. It really isn't, I think, other than going over with the horse that's associated with it. Not a bad film, not a great film.
Actually, Dan, I don't want to interrupt you. I think it is part of the plot in the sense, if I may, just for 2 seconds.
No, sure.
Yeah, the way I took it was, I think after he had experienced that incident when he was young on the set, it traumatized him, sure. But I think he developed or thought in his mind that he was special because he had, avoided being, succumbing to the same fate as those individuals.
That makes absolutely.
And as a result, I guess my point I'm trying to drive home, as a result of that, he felt he can control this thing in the sky and it would not hurt him.
Give it a fist bump.
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to the main character who understood that you have to respect the animal, not look it in the eye, and have respect. So there was that dichotomous type of thing that one just believed he was, he was special and he was a chosen one. And the other one's like, no. Animals don't, you're not special in the animal kingdom. If you don't respect it, And you don't, he even told the people on the movie set in the beginning, don't look the horse in the eye.
Yeah, yeah.
As soon as they all did, the horse went ballistic. So I think there was that tie-in. Maybe I'm wrong. That was my interpretation.
No, and you're absolutely correct. Because I think also the whole fact of looking is a major component in the safety of yourself. Because that's, if you recall, when something happens, he's looking around and he's running around, and he's not looking in the sky. Don't look. And that's what happened at one point. There's a horse standing somewhere. Reason being, the horse did not look at anything, and as opposed to everybody else. But no, overall, I liked it. I said, bit slow in the end. Jordan Peele certainly has the chops. I think one thing that Jordan Peele tends to succeed with, even the length of this film, he knows how to master the creep level in a film that has you wondering, oh shit, what's going on?
Yeah,
This
true.
is not right. He's not a in your face, jump out behind the curtain type of guy. He maintains this level of creep. And all I will say is at the end of the film, all I'm going to think when I say something, when I give anything away, I just thought Bob's Big Boy in the end, if you understand what I'm saying with this. How, and this is how in many films, it's not the nuclear missiles or Randy Quaid in a biplane taking down the aliens. It's usually something stupid or simple, and where something goes along and sees this thing there and goes staring at it and then goes, fuck it, let's eat it. And then boom, good night. So that's it. I don't give it a full thumbs down. Certainly one of his weaker efforts. I would, if you're a completist, I would say watch it. I wish he would make a tighter edit of it though, and stay away from a lot of the loaded excess. But overall, I think he's on target with stuff.
And by the way, the lead character OJ, the actor's name is Daniel Kaluuya, and he also was in Get
And
Out.
he's actually British. Like he's an
Yeah.
English guy with an thick English accent.
Yeah,
So
you could never tell.
He
No, you
was
can't
on a
tell.
series called Psychoville. If you ever seen that, that is like Psychoville is this 2-season off the wall comedy. It's done by this sketch group called something like the League of Ordinary Gentlemen or something like this. And this series he's in, it's like a really dark comedy. It's kind of like Monty Python meets Agatha Christie on LSD, and he's in that cast. It's just totally bizarre. But anyhow, that's just a bit of trivia about him.
Cool. All right, Jamie.
I'm not going with Nope at number 3. My number 3 was pretty easy. I'm going with the one in the middle here. I'm going with Us. It does have my girl in it, Lupita Nyong'o, a Kenyan girl, believe it or not. So yeah, I think she's hot as hell. My wife wants me to go to Kenya over and over again. I'm like, do you know where she lives? Can you introduce me to her? Because that might be the only way to drag my ass to Kenya. It does open with I like how it opens with the old school TV, and you see Hands Across America, the old commercial for Hands Across America. And I looked on the side of the TV and their VHS tapes. So the director has a love of horror movies and stuff, because he put those movies there. He has he has The Man with Two Brains, which is a hilarious movie with Steve Martin. He has The Goonies, and then he has Chud sitting there on VHS, which is great. And it opens with the little girl walking away from her parents, and she goes into the fun house. Look, if you're watching this and you haven't seen these movies, why are you watching us? What are you going to gain here? Go watch them. I'll tell you right now, go watch them all. You'll get something out of it. All right. Because I'm going to do some mild spoilers here. So, and I'm intrigued because she runs into her doppelganger and they stare at each other. I'm like, okay, where's this going? And so she grows up and she becomes a mother herself, and they go on vacation, her and her family, and they meet like their doubles. The whole family meets their doubles, and it's creepy. It's way creepy. And I'm like, this is badass. And I remember watching this the first time a couple years ago. And when Lupita does the You know, I think a lot of people, this is a love-hate type thing. When she does her voice, the spooky voice as the double. First time I saw it, I was like, this is kind of silly. And then the second time I saw it the other night, I'm like, it's not that bad. I think it's winning me over. Especially since you know the second time how she got it. And they're called the tethered, all these doppelgangers. And so yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great how he set up some scenes, like the closet you get locked in, you know, from the inside, the boat that runs by itself, and then how he uses that later. You know, that's classic film 101 shit, but I think he does it well. But the film starts to lose me when you find out that their friends down the street, they have doubles too, and the doubles are coming to kill them. I'm like, so everybody in the whole fucking world has a double. This is getting a little.
That's the genius of it, because I think it leads you to believe that it's like a home invasion film at first, and it kind of.
That's what I wanted.
But then
I wanted a tight.
Much more than that, right?
Yeah, it's much more than that, and it starts to get a little too big for its own britches, I think. I mean, and then, you know, it says in the beginning that there's like thousands of miles of tunnels down below. But then I start thinking, okay, and these tethered people down there, they're surviving on live rabbits. They're eating rabbits. What are the rabbits eating? I don't know. And the main family, they're on vacation. So they went to Santa Cruz on vacation. I don't know how long they drove. Probably a while. Were their double family there waiting for them? Or did they travel with them underground? And if they did, what transportation did they use? This is what I'm thinking as I'm watching.
They go to their real house first, realize they weren't there, then go to the vacation house.
Well, yeah. In the film, they do mimic your movements down below.
Exactly.
They mimic, but you're going 65, 75 miles an hour on the freeway.
Let's have a golf cart or something. I don't know.
A golf cart.
Yeah.
All right. And there's thousands of miles down there. Is that really going to hold enough for everyone in America? No. I think he gets this idea sometimes, and he's like, it doesn't make 100% sense. I don't give a fuck. I'm running with it. Anyways. It really starts to lose me there. And then, you know, he's got the Jeremiah 11:11 all over the place in this movie. So, you know, it shows up like on a clock, it'll be 11 minutes after 11. A baseball game is tied 11-11. I think a dude has a black flag t-shirt on with 11:11. And then you look up this Jeremiah 11:11 and it says, therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, I will bring evil upon them, which they shall not be able to escape. And though they shall cry unto me, I will not hearken unto them. Or what, not hearken, hearken unto them.
Okay.
Yes. Why are we supposed to love that guy again? I'm not sure. But I guess that means, you know, them, we're the evil ones, or they're the evil ones. I don't know. The guy goes for a message sometimes when he should just be trying to tell a tight story, entertain us, get your mind off the message just a little bit, and bring us to a nice, solid ending to a movie. This movie has a crazy ending that will make your head spin when you start to think about it. And I like the ending because it makes me think, but I'm not sure if I like the ending.
Jamie, did you see it coming? And if so, at what point?
I saw it coming a little late. This was like, what, 3 years ago when I saw it? So I'm trying to remember. I think I started seeing it coming a little late, but it was hard to see coming because this mother, she acts like she has a soul. She acts very caring, very loving. She was able to win over a husband. She was able to bring up some somewhat normal kids. She talks fine. So it's hard to believe where she came from, in my mind. It's hard to swallow that fact. Because they're supposed to be soulless, right? I don't know. I didn't see that, but you know, you want that POW ending. I guess you delivered on it. I don't like the hands across America thing with all the tethered people. I remember watching this and I said, I think he just M. Night Shyamalan his career. I think he put all his beans in the one movie. Well, M. Night Shyamalan did Signs, which ain't bad, but I was like, he peaked early. But then I thought with the next movie, maybe not. So, but we'll see how the career goes. But I think the movie starts great and then just loses. There are some funny scenes in it though, because he, you know, like you said, he's good with humor. When the girl says to Siri, it's not Siri, it's something else. Call the police, and it goes playing "Fuck the Police" by NWA.
Yeah.
Fucking hilarious. It's hilarious. So and not too funny that it takes you out of it, because it's something that probably would have happened because she was talking in a gurgled way. So
the neighbors are kind of, I think the neighbors are kind of funny.
They were like the comic relief.
Yeah. And that guy's double, you know, was kind of acting like him with a weird sense of humor about his killing. And so yeah. Number 3.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna go with Nope for my number 3. I will say I like all 3 of these to varying extents. I think my biggest issue with this one is that it doesn't really know what it wants to be.
Right.
Is it a horror film? Not really. Is it a sci-fi film? Sort of, but not really. Is it a Western? Sort of, but not really. I find I don't really care about any of the characters in this one, as opposed to the other 2. You know, OJ, the main character, Dan, you're absolutely right. He's just kind of there. But I think that was how they wanted him to be. I don't think it's
yeah, he has trouble talking in front of the crowd in the beginning.
Yeah, he doesn't like looking at people. He's detached, and
yeah,
it's like you get the impression it's like he loves horses, but he doesn't really give a shit if he's doing it for a living or he doesn't want it to be his business. And
where his father had built a business.
It's like it's not really his. So he's just kind of the whole movie. He's just kind of like there. His sister is a little bit, not a little bit, a lot more outgoing, but she's got weird views on things. They kind of clash a lot. I think it's a beautiful looking film. Is it a monster film? Space age alien film? It's the kind of the reveal at the end of what this thing actually is, to me, was kind of disappointing. I wanted a little more monster, whatever. I don't want to spoil too much here. All the scenes with all the horses done really, really well. It looks great. It's directed really well. It is too long. I agree with you there. I don't know. I'm puzzled by this one because I like it. I like aspects of it. I don't love it. I think I really enjoy the other 2. This one I like, but there's parts of it that I'm not crazy about. And I'm still kind of puzzled about what it's ultimately supposed to be. And I don't know which one of you mentioned that, when it first came out, man, critics were all over this. Oh, this is great. I think over time, over half a year or whatever, I think people have kind of like, not so much soured on it, but it's like, I think people, now they've had a chance to digest this one and compare it to the other 2. I think this one, based on what I'm seeing out there, is that this one is not quite sitting as high as the other 2. And that's without even reading into all that. That's kind of how I felt when I saw this one, because obviously it's the 3rd one that I saw. But I do like parts of it. I don't dislike it. I'm kind of like half and half with it. So I'm not going to give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Kind of somewhere in the middle. It's good. It was entertaining. I'm just puzzled by it. I don't really know where to put it, what to do with it, because it just seems to go in a bunch of different directions. But it's a good looking film. It's entertaining. And I would recommend, if you're at all interested in this guy as a director and writer, that you need to see it, obviously, because it does kind of fit in with his other films, but it's just, I don't know. It's a little schizophrenic in my eyes, but not terrible by any means. But that's my number 3. So back to Dan.
Cool. Yeah, I agree with everything you just said, Pete. So my number 2 is the first one I saw from Jordan Peele. I guess in 2019 when it came out, and it's Us. And I really liked a good chunk of this movie when I initially saw it. I have not seen it since until a couple days ago. I rewatched. I didn't rewatch the entire thing. I rewatched parts that I found were pertinent or vital, so I could actually get a good sense of what I want to talk about here. Because it, like Nope, it is also fairly long. But it doesn't suffer from the same, where length is working against it. I found they did, maximize and optimize every opportunity throughout the length of the movie to actually keep it interesting. So when I watched it initially, I thought it was very creative. Like Jamie, I thought initially this is going to be a home invasion. Well, backing up, the beginning of the movie, it sucked you in right away. Like, wow, this is kind of interesting. I also love, the reference to the 80s, and I'm 45. I was born in 77, so I was a kid during that time, but I remember it very, very well. And it was a cool retro type of thing, and Jordan Peele has that. I mean, he wears his influences on his sleeves, and he's proud of that. He's a horror fan. He's a comedian, first and foremost, but he's a horror fan. And that's what I love about it. He's actually referencing a ton of stuff. And another cool aspect that I really enjoy about this movie, and also, I guess, all of his movies, is that he kind of takes the same inspiration as, let's say perhaps David Lynch, or even Kubrick, where there's a lot of symbolism, and things are very symbolic and represented something else, and you have to pay attention, because there's a lot of red herring, there's a lot of foreshadowing, probably even more in Get Out, but this one as well. There's a lot there, so it really, you have to watch it a second time, which at the time I think I did maybe even 3 times back in 2019. So once you understand what's happening and you know the end, and you rewatch it from a different lens. And it's the same thing with Get Out, 100%. It's like, oh wow, okay, now I see what's happening. I know why this character is doing this and why they're acting this way. And it was intriguing. I think I enjoyed, for the most part, I want to say the first act up until and including the home invasion part. I found that extremely disturbing, creepy. The whole movie was creepy up until that point. You don't really know what's happening. You see this little girl sees her doppelganger in the beginning, in the fun house with all the mirrors, and it's okay. This is kind of cool. This is scary, and then it kind of fast forwards, and you see, okay, now we're dealing with the girl who was sort of like, who saw her double, and she went back to her parents, probably scared out of her mind, and now she's a grown woman with her own family, with a son who's a little bit deranged as well. He kind of seems kind of peculiar throughout, but you go with it, and it's a cool movie. You get to know the family. Like Jamie said, she seems like a warm person, amiable, gregarious. She just seems like a nice individual. And then all of a sudden there's this invasion, and you see, okay, well, there's that same twin girl grown up and with this voice. And I was going with it, like, this is really what's happening here. I like home invasion movies, like The Strangers wasn't bad, and some other ones as well. And then right after that, when the family members, or the tethered, or the shadows, as they refer to them as well, are given orders by the mom and by the wife to go start chasing the other members, at that point it sort of just completely changed the mood that it was going for. It became very comedic, and started becoming very grandiose, because then we start to see also there's the other family, the white family, the friends, the couple with their daughters. Okay, it extends beyond this family. And so, okay, you go with that as well, but then it just feels like the movie shifted into a different type of movie. And there were a lot of amazing aspects from that different type of movie we were starting to become part of, but it also felt like that fear factor and the unknown. It was intriguing. It seemed to dissipate. I think until the last or final act, when you start to go you go underground again with the mom and her doppelganger. And I think what Jordan Peele does, I don't think he did it in Nope, but he definitely did it in this movie and in Get Out. There's a lot of exposition, and in this movie there was too much exposition when the two women were in the I don't know what you call the underground layer, like they go down the escalator and they're in this room, and she starts telling her everything. She reveals the entire gamut of what happened, why. Well, she did that as well when they invaded the home initially, but she spoke, she literally said everything to this woman, and you feel for her plight. Okay, you start to recognize, okay, this is cool, like they're doing the exact same thing below as they're tethered individuals with souls. You see the thing with the souls part, Jamie, I don't know if they're soulless unless that was said outright. The way I interpret it is nature versus nurture. And that's coming from, in fact, I'm a psychologist. So I look at it from that perspective. So those individuals down there, they're kind of like, they don't have that, they're not nurtured. They don't have the warmth, they don't have all that, like, just represented, they're eating like raw rabbits, which is disturbing. Whereas up top, they're twins or whatever, they're receiving this, warm family nurturing. And when, I don't want to give away the plot, but like there's two women and there's two girls initially, and it just shows that one of the girls, depends how one's raised, if one could sort of from a young age sort of escape a certain environment and then placed in a different type of environment through nurture, they could develop maybe their soul. But I think develop what one would if one were in a different type of environment where that, is not conducive to bringing out the best in them. It's interesting because at the end, there's someone that reverts back to her previous self in terms of her behaviors and her mannerisms. And it's like, okay, so she's still the same little girl she was initially. And it's like, okay, well, nurture is great, but it only takes you so far because there's also, what's inside of you. So that was interesting. But at the end, it was very cool. I had a suspicion throughout the movie that things weren't as they seemed. And one of the main characters, it's weird doing like no spoilers because I'm used to doing spoilers on this show, but I'm keeping it spoiler free. Unless Pete says otherwise, that, this main character, as you're following her, something maybe is off and things aren't as they appear. And at the end, the reveal, we find out through this reveal that, okay, oh, wow. And now we're retroactively going backwards. And then we see the son kind of looking at mom and, okay, maybe someone knows something. And it's obvious. And like, we are able to keep it like the main character perhaps has secrets and they're going to stay as such. But I liked it. The comedic elements were okay. The dad was like comic relief 101.
Yeah, the best.
Yeah. It reminds me of in Get Out, the sort of the airport security friend.
Oh.
Similar type of vibe. Similar. Yeah. I liked him better in that movie. But it was funny. There were moments were funny. Scary only in the beginning, where there was the creepy type of unnerving atmosphere and environment. It's like, foreboding, like dread. There was a lot of dread right up until the home invasion. When you see them all standing in the driveway for the first time, it's like, okay, shit's going to go down now.
Yeah, it's a great scene.
Just standing in the street light. Yeah, it's just kind of like, whoa, what's going on?
Well, everybody has that nightmare, right? It's like you look out your front door and there's strange people in front of your house and they're just standing there not saying anything.
What?
Right. And then in comes exposition when they come inside and the woman starts telling things, and the suspense is kind of like, okay, well, there goes that, and then at the end there goes everything. But so I find it's like too much exposition. That's the thing with Jordan Peele. He goes a little too far. I don't know, he extends himself and he tries to. He's clearly a good writer and he writes well, and there's a lot of, like I said, symbolism, which is phenomenal. Like, you have to really pay attention in his movies. And I enjoyed that thoroughly because it makes you think. It's sort of like kind of a Cronenberg, or like I said, a Lynch, or a Kubrick type of movie. You have to think, you have to pay attention. Okay, red means danger. Okay, there's a, so let's go with that. So he has that aspect. But yeah, I found the first act the best. I didn't lose interest. I just found, like I said, it shifted tone. And then I'm like, okay, I don't like this as much, but I am giving it a thumbs up. I watched it for a second time and today, or probably a third or fourth, because I watched it at least 2 times initially. I didn't enjoy it as much because my number one, which is through, through order of, deductive logic. I mean, obviously I've already said my first two, or 3 and 2, that my number one, I watched for the first time just recently. I didn't see it when it was released. So
that's one that deserves 2 or 3 viewings to really get into the psyche of what's going on.
I'm looking forward to watching it again, because now that I know what we all know, it's through a different lens. And, oh wow, it's like, that's cool. Okay, so I'll get to that when I get to my number one.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. All right.
No. So that's those are my thoughts on number 2.
They really never explain the tethered. They say they were made by the government or something.
It was like a cloning
to control us.
Yeah.
To control us to do what? They don't really say. They just brush it off like puppets. That's what she says. To do what? And it seems like we control them more than they control us, anyways.
They mimic.
So, I don't know.
All right, Dan, you're number 2.
I'm right again. I'm with Us as my second pick. Once again, yes, it starts out the beginning. Once Santa Clarita, the small town that they either I don't even know her. She was vacationing with her parents, or she grew up there. I'm not sure. But why would you come back to a town that traumatized the shit out of you? But then again, we know who the mother is, so maybe that's why they came back. Jordan Peele was inspired by Lost Boys when he did the amusement park type of thing. They also the fun house that the little girl walks into and meets her doppelganger first time is very much influenced by Big, with the Zoltar on the boardwalk that you're intrigued by. I thought this film built the creep level, the beginning, the whole thing. Sadly enough, the hippie guy with the sign, the Jeremiah thing, who was found dead later. I wish I had known more about his backstory. Was he the guardian of the gate? We don't know. But it's creepy, and I didn't think it lost it after the home invasion. And I agree with Dan says. He starts talking. I think the thing is that Jordan Peele is probably a great wordsmith. And most horror films, especially as like I'm editing stuff and I'm going through things in my own collection sometimes, I look through it and you realize how few little moments of dialogue there are. They're simple, to the point, and we move on to the carnage where it's going on. He likes dialogue. He's an intelligent writer. But the problem is, you can only, if you're watching a horror film and he's building the suspense, he doesn't know when to lay off of the keyboard, and just work with the storyboard. Like Hitchcock, you could sell more. I thought I enjoyed the fact when the second invasion, when they went to their friend's house and that shit came down, and going to the father, comedic. I thought the greatest line in the whole film, comedically, was when the daughter wanted to drive the car and they're arguing who's going to drive the car. And the father goes, well, I have 2 kills under my belt. One is myself, so I should be able to drive the car. That little things, which are fun. It's not as good as the TSA buddy in Get Out, but it has its moments. It kind of levens it out. So when that moment on, after the second home invasion with the other family and the fuck the police, the whole thing, the way it went down, that's when I lost it. I just didn't lose interest, but it just got kind of boring. And he's trying to wrap it up and give a rationale to it all. And you don't have to. And I think it would have been much more powerful. The end reveal on how it really went down. Okay, that I forgot all about that. And I said, oh yes, that's right. That's why the people are who they are. The failed government experiment. I know that when she was rescued from the funhouse in the beginning, if everybody recalls, she did not speak for a number of years. And that's because this person was not going to give it away. They were listening and learning. They didn't know how to. So they used the trauma as a way of why she could talk, but she couldn't talk. And then we find out what goes in that. The holding hands in America, I kept thinking about Mad Men when they had I'd like to sing, give the world a Coke and sing in harmony. That shit. I remember that. I swear to God, man, I remember that. I was in high school and that Hands Across America thing went. That was in the 70s, not the 80s, I think. God, that was just so fucking corny.
No, Hands Across America was 86. You're thinking of the
86.
Coke commercial
Okay, maybe I'm
or the
thinking of
Pepsi commercial.
72, right? Yes, teach it harmony and drink a Coke. God, how about do some Coke and let's dance? You know, you know. I liked it. I liked the ending, the twist, but it lost it, even from the point once it leaves the nighttime element to daytime. I think it would have been so much more powerful had they, since he's so influenced by movies, why he could not have had, and I'll end it up very simply. Anybody who's a fan of the show here will understand when I say that, is that they're here. They're here. Run for your lives. And that's, if it ended like that, with another one of the greatest classic sci-fi films of all time, I think that would have a much more satisfying ending. Instead of something that was, at the end, they're showing people, why are all these people in orange jumpsuits holding hands? What the fuck is that all about? Why am I supposed to be scared about that other than running them over? But yeah, I once again don't hate it. I like it. And I like, at least, I would like to say, the part with the second home invasion is like, what, halftime period. I think it holds up very well. And he just, he has a hard time wrapping it up sometimes, at least on these last two we talked about. Overall, I like it.
Okay, cool.
This kind of like a 33 and a third angle or something.
Jamie, how about you? Number 2.
I am going with Nope as my second choice. I bought this $16.99 on sale, the 4K, so I grabbed it. And the 4K looks beautiful.
Yeah.
And I like what they do with 4K and Blu-ray sometimes. They give you that IMAX experience where it gets wider at some points on your TV and back down. So yeah, and it does that at certain points. When it first starts, you get the artifacts falling from the sky, like a key in the ass of a horse, and I think the dad gets a nickel in the head, in the eye, and I'm thinking this is either going to be really cool, or he's biting off more than he can chew again, and I don't know which one it's going to be yet because it happens right in the beginning. But here's the problem I started having in the first quarter, maybe the first third around there of the movie. And I started making my notes because this is the kind of shit that bothers me. I always compare it to The House in The Haunting. Is it The Haunting, that movie? I think so, where they say the house is built on just slight angles here and there, and it ends up making the whole house weird and a maze. Well, that's what I get in the beginning of this movie. Slight angles, and all the small little slight angles start to bother me when they start adding up. People are not acting naturally. When the main character, Hayward Jr., sees his dad fall over on the horse because he got a nickel in the eye, he doesn't start running after him right away. Like, oh shit, there's like this, a delay. I'm like, just run after him, dude. All right, I'll look over. I'll look past that. But then a horse gets loose, and Haywood, he just watches it go. Most people go, "What the hell? Get back here! What? Oh shit! The horse got." Says nothing. And then the sister's dancing the music, and the electric goes out, and it's a turntable, so it goes whoa, starts to slow down. She doesn't lose a step in her dancing as it starts to slow down. It's slowing down, and she's still keeping tempo with the way it was. I'm like, you would go, whoa, what's happening as it slows down, not when it's done slowing down. These are little things that start to build up in my brain. And the same thing happens with the Geek Squad guy in his truck as he's listening to I Wear My Sunglasses at Night. Electric goes out, and it starts, it's a radio, so I don't even know why it winds down slowly. Maybe it's a cassette tape. And he's still singing along as it slows down, and he's not missing a beat. And then when it stops, he goes, what happened? And this is what I wrote. If you're going to have odd characters doing things off kilter, then the whole movie needs to have that vibe right down to the score, like a David Lynch movie. If you're trying to have real characters in unreal situations, then the characters need to act as real as possible. And that's what I wasn't getting. But then something weird happened. After I wrote that, I got over it. I don't know if I got used to it all or if they stopped doing it as much. I'm not sure. I have to watch it again, but I got over it and I started really enjoying it. I think I really started enjoying it. There's a part that gave me chills when that alien being swoops down to OJ and he takes cover, I think, in a horse shed or something in the stalls. That was creepy as hell. The people getting swallowed by the being and they're going up to shoot and you see him on the inside. Very well done.
That was a great part.
I like the whole thing. Yeah, maybe it's dragged out. I wasn't really thinking that at the time, but I liked it when they were trying to trap him. Now it starts to get a little silly when the photographer guy, Antlers is his name, which is kind of a cool name for a character. He wants to get the impossible shot, and how far he goes to get it is a little questionable. I'm not sure about that. And the alien dying. This alien just came through our hemisphere, to get to where it was. I think it can survive quite a bit. I'm not sure if that's going to kill it. But here's Jordan Peele going, all right, the chimpanzee in the beginning went nuts because the balloon popped. I'm working the balloons in. I don't care if it makes no sense. I'm working it in. He gets stuck on a thing and he forces it, even though it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That's what he does. Yeah, I get the symbolism. I get the whole, you can't, don't put animals on display like our Stephen Yeun was doing his character. By the way, the most brutal scene on cable network TV, I think, is when he gets it from Negan with the bat in the head.
Oh yeah.
As Glenn, spoiler alert. I think that's the most brutal, shocking scene I've ever seen on a cable TV network show. So yeah, I like a good chunk of this, especially in the middle. I think the sister is kind of funny without being too funny. So I liked her character. I get why he's soft-spoken. That didn't bother me. Sometimes I had to put on the subtitles though, because he mumbled a little bit.
Yeah, he does.
He's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what the fuck did he just say? Rewind, subtitles. So yeah, I like the middle quite a bit. It gets silly at the end. I told you about the off-kilter stuff in the beginning, but I kind of want to watch it again, maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years. And I have a feeling it's one of those movies I might like more the second time, because I only seen it once.
Yeah, you have to watch these things twice or three times. Also, you start picking up on nuances. I think quiet, because when you said the funny thing, not to interject, but when you're talking about how there were things that were annoying you in the beginning, and I think these nuances were put in there so you really didn't like the characters. You didn't care about them. There was nothing emotionally invested into them. And then he came off where his father, like, he was kind of like, she used the term socially retarded, or conversationally wise. And that's why he's very shy. That's why when he was showing the horse in the beginning, he's very much like well, just don't look in his eye. Yeah.
And then she comes in and that establishes the two personalities.
So yeah. So she was the comedic thing, but she's also one that had a spark, which also pays off for her in the end, more so than, he's riding off like, Clayton Moore in the Lone Ranger. And, she's out there facing the alien entity. But yeah, it's, sorry, I had to throw that in there because they weren't very likable characters. They didn't really give a shit. I like Michael Wincott's character as he wanted to get the shot. And then, yeah, you got the shot all right, pal.
All right, my number 2, I'm going to go with Get Out. First one I saw, his first directorial film. This is fun. This is like, kind of like that whole be careful what you wish for. You never know the kind of family you're going to either marry into, or, you start dating a girl and you go home to meet her family, and after a little while, you're like, oh, they're kind of fucked up, right? So this is like that to the nth degree. And it's an interesting film because, it deals with the whole, interracial thing, which, right, is always controversial. And you can, at first you're like, all right, so is her family like a bunch of bigots, right? And but then as the film unfolds, and I'm not going to give it all away, you realize there's a lot more going on here than you originally thought, and it gets gets pretty weird, pretty out there. I think it's a really cool story. The acting is really good. I think I forget her name. She's from that HBO show Girls. I think she does a really good job, because at first you kind of really sympathize with her, you really like her as a character, and then as the movie kind of unfolds a little bit, and maybe your perception changes a little bit. I won't say anything else there, but the father is an interesting character, to say the least. Yeah, it's just a cool film that kind of takes you down twists and turns. You're at some point you're not quite always sure what's going on, is what's actually going on. And it has a really good ending. I think the last like 15-20 minutes are really, really well done. And I think out of the three of these films, I think this one has the most interesting characters. Like I said, I like one other a little bit more overall, but I think this is pretty close. This could be number one. It's a very strong number two, I think. Like I said earlier, I find that two of these films are a bit better than the third one for me. And I had a hard time going back and forth between my number one and my number two, but they're both really, really strong. But I think I like the other one a little bit better. But yeah, this is a lot of fun. This was a really good debut for him, and it's a very clever film. And again, I remember seeing like the trailer and the commercials for these, because they showed them all the time. They promoted the hell out of this film, and I was like, that doesn't look very interesting to me. I don't know if I want to see that. And then I kind of gave in like a year later, and watched it maybe even 2 years later, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. This is not what I expected at all. Pleasantly surprised. So yeah, Get Out, my number two. That's quite good. I like it a lot.
Okay, so your number two is
Your number one.
number one. Yeah, I just saw this movie, to believe or not, yesterday for the first time. I'm sort of disappointed. I didn't see it when it initially came out. As I mentioned, I did see Us 3 years ago, and I did enjoy it. So that should have been an incentive to watch his first movie, which had rave reviews and universally is very well respected and liked. But there are a lot of people were saying it wasn't really a horror movie, and like, I watch things other than horror movies other than horror, of course, but I didn't know. I just, for some reason, I wasn't inspired to watch it. But for this particular show, I did. And I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. So firstly, it reminded me, again, he sort of has, his movies are a pastiche of his influences. That goes without saying. This particular movie had a very Stepford Wives vibe to me.
Oh yeah, big time.
And which I loved. That movie there were several sequels, and I've only seen the original. The remake was horrible, but it had a very, very interesting thing. So I thought it was going in that direction, and it sort of did to an extent. But let's start from what I liked. So the characters, really liked the characters. Unlike the main actor, the main character's role in Nope, I found he was, bipolar opposite in this one. He was just a really likable guy. Had, just spoke, you like him from the get-go. He's sympathetic character, that the deer that got hit, and he goes up to the deer, and he has all this compassion for the animal, the hurt animal. Knowing what I know now after having, watched it to the end, you kind of have to go back retrospectively and actually say, okay, well, oh wow, so all of this just it makes sense now. And you realize it's sort of like he's trapped in this cobweb. He has no inclination throughout the movie. And there's so many aspects that I loved about this movie. You come to the home, it just seems like the ideal home where his parents, they embrace him, and they're warm, they give him a hug, and his girlfriend seems like a really cool chick. She seems really nice, and she's defending him, and she's, I'm here to take care of my man. And you get the impression she's doing just that. And but then you start to realize, okay, something kind of sinister is going on here when you meet the caretaker, and you meet the maid. Again, I don't want to reveal anything, but
it's hard not to with this film.
Oh my God, especially when the father introduces the maid. He starts, I guess this is not going to be a spoiler. He says, my mother loved the kitchen, so we kept a part of her in here, and you kind of understand what that means later on. And that is sprinkled throughout this movie. Like, you really break it down, they're all wearing hats. Like the other character that comes and you meet him, you meet a bunch of characters, and just the conversation that they have with the main character and his girlfriend, these older couples. And it's like, okay, well, are they just trying not to be racist? But that the whole thing about this commentary is like, it's his, and I've watched interviews with Jordan Peele talking about this. But yeah, he's definitely trying to make a statement about racism. And even when people aren't trying to be racist, they just are. And there's like more ignorance, which one of the characters used the word ignorance. Everyone here is ignorant, but you start to realize later that there's a reason why they're asking him questions and trying to size him up, and both the men and the women of the couples. And it's like, okay, this is, again, you don't know that at first watch, but knowing what we know toward it happens at the end or towards the end, like, okay, wow. I love the I found it wasn't scary. It was creepy, and there were a lot of creepy moments. Like, this is on a spoiler, but I love the moment where he goes out for a smoke early on in the movie when he's at the house and girlfriend's sleeping. He walks outside. Well, first of all, you see the maid in the background like walk by fast. Okay, that's unnerving. What's going on with that? But then you see the caretaker start running towards him at top speed. And the interesting part, again, it's like you see it ties back into what the father was telling him when he was giving him the tour initially. And he was showing him, the pictures on the wall of his own father, of his girlfriend's grandfather, how he was sort of beat I think he was a runner in the Olympics, and he was beat out by a black guy. And he could never let that go, and he never got over that defeat. And you realize, okay, well, what's going on? Like, okay, now you recognize, okay, well, I don't want to give anything away, but this makes sense. But it's terrifying when he's running towards him. And it's just this overall unnerving vibe, claustrophobic atmosphere. It's just impending doom. It's just, something is really, really malevolent and sinister here. And you feel like the main character is in a world of shit, like in what's the movie I'm referencing here from '87, Stanley Kubrick's war movie, Full Metal Jacket. I'm in a world of shit. He's in a world of shit in this movie. Like, when the mom puts him under, and that scene where, now you're sinking. And it's like, okay, that is huge, because again, I can't reveal anything, but you recognize, okay, that the person doesn't go away. They're held captive in their own body. And it's just a terrifying thought. And those moments, the epiphanies, I love the scenes where there's a sort of fleeting moment where there's clarity. And you see that the person who, I can't give it away, but when the clarity starts to unfold, and you see another side of that person come out, let's say, I love that. And now going back and knowing what we know, and then rewatching, it's like, oh wow, okay, it was done exceptionally well. All the characters were likable or not, and when they weren't, it was by design. And you start to really, you warm up to one character, and then once you realize, okay, that character isn't who they're purporting to be, and there's someone very different, then you start to dislike them immensely. But it's done very well. And I will say one thing, so I don't want to give away any spoilers, but the very end, I think it was Jamie who said it, you really enjoyed the end, last 15, 20 minutes. Do you know there's an alternate ending? So what we've all seen is the theatrical cut, which is the ending we can watch on when we stream it, whatever have you. But the director's alternate ending, it was much bleaker and more realistic. And there was a bold statement that was made. And I think he made a mistake by going with the ending that he did in the theatrical ending. I found the director's cut. I mean, I enjoyed the theatrical ending for what it was. I'm not going to say it wasn't a good ending. It was. And there's actually 7 takes. I have the deleted scenes, and there's 7 takes of when he's I don't want to say who he's saved by or not saved by or whatever. There's a
The
scene in
movie's going on 6 years old. I mean, crying out loud.
Yeah, but I'm going, well, Jamie, where's your I used to watch you back in the day when you had a spoiler sign.
It's over there.
What
I'm about
happened
to
to
pull it out when I
Pull it
start
out,
talking.
man. Pull it out.
Up on
I'm
that.
like dying here. I want to say things and I'm not saying anything. It's all very cryptic, my explanations, but regardless. So the scene in the car at the very end or whatever, there were 7 takes of that, and he had a different line for every take, and everyone was just as funny. But overall, to sum it up, just saw it. Definitely going to rewatch this one. Haven't had an opportunity to do so yet, but it was just, again, Stepford Wives is one movie that it reminded me of, but it reminded me of a lot of movies. And I just want to, I'd love for him to make more movies like this. It doesn't have to have social commentary. That's not necessary. It wasn't too it wasn't too heavy. It wasn't overly done. It was well done, well crafted, and it was a tighter script. It was much more
well written. So yeah.
Much more to the point. He didn't try to, bite off more than he could chew with his first.
Academy Award for the script.
What's that, Dan?
Academy Award for the script.
Yeah.
Best original screenplay, which a lot of it was improvised though too, but he even admits that. Especially
unsurprising. I mean, he had a great cast, great actors. Everyone seemed inspired. Everyone seemed just, they were going with it. I love the parents, like the dad and and the mom and the brother too was just a real, you hate him. And you kind of realize the opening scene of the movie, which you all know what it is, when someone's walking on the sidewalk and something happens to him, and you realize later on who did it and how he did it. And there's so much foreshadowing that if you really pay attention, and I just love when he walks into the closet towards the end, the main character, and he sees something and he starts to look through this something. And he starts to realize, and we as an audience start to realize, oh shit, oh wow, okay. So, and then everything makes sense and it's clear, and then we just have to go with it for the remainder of the duration of the movie. But yeah, overall, I give it 2 thumbs up, and job well done.
Cool. Well, Dan, it's your number one, obviously, as well.
Well, it's my number one was actually a film he did with Key and Peele called Keanu. No, I'm just kidding. It's a comedy.
That movie is hilarious.
It is. But anyhow, no, it's Get Out. There are very few directors, in my opinion, or many people's opinion, that hit it out of the park when they make their first film. As in, it's Orson Welles, Citizen Kane,
Tarantino,
right, with Reservoir Dogs, and then going more into the Monsters Den vein will be M. Night Shyamalan with Sixth Sense. There's certain ways wow, this is
Toby Hooper, have to mention him.
Well, yes, that too. That's even going back even further. But there's a handful, and I think Jordan Peele with this film fits into that pantheon of directors. I think. This film, I like this film because it just goes in so many directions. There's so much going on. And you realize that the whole film is nothing more than one big, if you're familiar with David Mamet's work called House of Games, which was with Joe Mantegna and Lindsay Krause, I believe, about grifters. This is one big grift that he's been set up from the moment it starts. To the point when they come in and here's there's what's his name, Bradley, was it Bradley Whitford? Bradley, anyhow, the father, who, when I saw him, it means West Wing, and so forth. And he goes in there and, they're visiting the house and, he says things, he's baiting him to see how he reacts. And he says everything short of saying some of my best friends are colored people, just to get a reaction. And the guy's kind of all right, cool. I get it. I deal with this shit all the time. And then just one thing leads to another. I mean, there's anything from brain transplants to hypnosis. It harkens back to drive-in films of the early 60s where you'd have these displaced or disposed Nazi scientists creating super women on an island. I mean, eugenics is in there. It's the Lindbergh kidnapping. It's all there, and white supremacy. But the funny thing about it is that it's a comment on how would I say, it's here are these people that are white, okay, that are of a privileged sect who are obviously racist somewhere along the line, that they in turn are looking at the Black individual as a superior way to keep going, whether it be physically or whatever it may be. I find it kind of hilarious that the only way to get them out of this trance, I haven't figured out if they're transplanting brains, because there's also hypnosis, because the mother does hypnosis, especially when, like, the one guy who even the second time or third time I saw, I said, that's Dave Chappelle. It wasn't. It's another actor. It looks just like Dave Chappelle. Thinner. And, they take a photo and he just freaks and goes, get out, just like freaks out. And I'm going, that's all it takes is a flash cube to fuck this all up. After they're transplanting brains, we have doctors and scientists and this. And that's the only thing, that was my only downside of it. But other than that, it is just, it's well crafted. Talk about the creep level.
Yeah.
And a bit of trivia about it, once again, he's influenced by many films. Stepford Wives, of course, it just rings Stepford Wives. But some of the main characters in the film are named after Rosemary's Baby. The father's name is Roman, and the daughter's name is Rose. And Roman was the head of the devil cult in Rosemary's Baby. So he's very influenced by all of this, but he just hits it out of the park. And even like I saw this in 2017. Of course, COVID comes along, and you tend to forget a lot of shit. And I sat there and I went, oh my God, when I realized, oh no, that's what happened to the grandparents. Oh my God, yes. Wow, that's why they're wearing wigs and hats, and the guy's chopping wood. It's just okay, but that's grandma and grandpa. I'm going, oh my God, that's right. And like now, as opposed to like with Dan, yes, the original ending is a bit more downbeat and so forth. I kind of like the fact that it is an upbeat ending, because I'll be honest with you, after all that went down, other than his friend who just talk about comedic relief. I mean, they're going to turn you into a sex slave. That's it. I know the mother, she's fucking everybody. That's it. It's a sex slave thing. They got you there. All I'll just say is at the end, when the police car shows up, I literally sat there and went, yes, yes, this is how it's got to end. Yeah, there was another ending, was also aside when he filmed. I don't know if it wasn't that's shown on the DVD or the Blu-ray, but there is an ending that apparently, like, he kind of drops off the face of the earth, the main character, after this whole thing goes down, and his friends never given up the ghost or the chase to find him, and he runs into him in a town, and he doesn't recognize him, like kind of like a, he's like had a lobotomy, or he's trained or conditioned. And the scariest part of the film, although it was filmed in Alabama, it takes place in upstate New York. Pete, this could be within 5 miles of our home.
Possible, yeah.
But it takes place in upstate New York, which even gets even more creepy. Well done, crafted, hits all the angles. Once again, Dan, you're going to enjoy it. Second or third viewing, you just pick up on more and more nuances that you realize it's really well crafted. Great starting point. I give it a thumbs up on both ends. And I still think that Jordan Peele has a lot more mileage in him. I think maybe Us is the sophomore blues to some extent, although it's a strong film first half. And Nope, which I put as number 3, just had a hard time editing and getting a direction. I don't know. Everybody's into making films over 2.5 hours now. Whereas, back when Sylvester Stallone was making action films, you couldn't make them more than 90 minutes so they can get more screenings during the day. And it's, and he was asked to do a sequel to Get Out. And he goes, the money was there. He goes, but they, they always say that, make a sequel, like, Hellraiser 75 or something. It's a cash grab. But he wouldn't do that. He said, yes, there could be.
He'll do a sequel if he does another film and it flops, and then he needs a hit. He'll go back to the well. Is my guess.
Off that, it'll do Us where they finally hold hands across America.
We'll see. Yeah,
they drink a Coke and everybody sings in harmony. And
that's right. That's right.
That's it. I give it a thumbs up across the board. Well done film, well crafted, and yeah, overall I like all of his work. So it's just you got to grab nuances from it, pieces, and come up. But overall, he's one of the better directors today.
Cool, Jamie.
Yeah, I'm going with Get Out as my number 1. Now, the first time I saw this movie was not the best situation, because this is what I used to do about 5.5 years ago. Work was a little bit slower for me back then. Oh, the good old days when work was slow. And what I would do the first few hours of work is I sat at my desk, which was lower, and I had my, computer tower, which, had the old disc thing in it, and my monitor was here. I made a little awning out of cardboard, and I put it on top of the tower. And then out of paper clips, I made a little holder, and I put my phone under the awning and watched movies in the morning. And you walked by me, you couldn't see my phone under the awning, and I was just chilling watching movies. Not the best situation to watch this movie, because you are a bit distracted with work, and it is a small screen. So for the first time, I watched it, on a big screen, as I should, the other night, and of course I liked it more. So yeah, I like the fact that the white girl has to bring the black boyfriend to meet the parents, something I dealt with 20 years ago, something I have experience with the old school parents. I do like how the parents at first seem overly friendly. We're huggers here. It is a bit creepy, but you're like, I guess it's nice. But this is one of those movies that starts to take levels of craziness, almost like DEFCON 5 to DEFCON 1. In fact, let's do the DEFCON 5 to DEFCON 1. DEFCON 5 is the best DEFCON. DEFCON 1 is the worst, by the way. So DEFCON 5 of this movie is the dad, within a few minutes, uses an F-bomb. All right, I get it. We're all adults here, but you're meeting me for the first time and we're dropping F-bombs. Okay, first little in the movie that makes you go, And he's saying things like, my man, and how long have you guys been a thing? Big eye rolling moments in the movie. And then he meets Georgina in the kitchen, and she's giving almost, we just reviewed that movie, Smile, that almost kind of smile on her face, which is, pretending to be happy. I'm a servant and happy to be here. DEFCON 5. DEFCON 4, Chris gets hypnotized without consent. And the actress, Catherine Keener is her name. She has a gift of sounding authoritative without raising her voice. When she says, what does she say? Now drop into the floor. There's authority in her voice, but it's not yelling. Very good at doing that. The party guests. I hear black is in fashion. Is sex better with a black man? Creepy. And then meeting the young dude dressed up in a crazy outfit, married to an old lady.
Like he's on a Devo album cover.
Yes. And then Georgina, which this is my favorite moment of all films, when Georgina comes to him and pleads for help, but she can't get the words out. And she's smiling and she's crying and she's trying to say help all at the same time. It's a wonderful scene. DEFCON 3, the silent auction for Chris. Now our boy is fucked. And it's literally a silent auction with no one talking. And they're using bingo cards, spoilers, to bid on him. It's going on 6 years old. So they're holding up these bingo cards, and that's how they bid. And in this case, bingo stands for our boy, Chris. Boy, I'm never getting out. He is fucked. DEFCON 2. Spoilers. He finds pictures of his girlfriend with her past boyfriends and girlfriends. Yep. And what this does is the one thing that kind of kept him grounded in all this insanity is now on the side of insanity. So now he has nothing. Now he's just floating out there completely alone. And then DEFCON 1 is the motherfucking surgery. Now, as his buddy said, they're brainwashing these people to become sex slaves. I wonder if I would have liked that idea better, because DEFCON 1 is pretty fucking crazy. When they start doing brain transplants, that brings me back to like mad scientists from the 1940s, you know, and I can forgive them for that because back then maybe they thought that'd be possible one day. We know that's not possible in 2017 when this movie came out. So it goes a little too far for me with that idea, but it doesn't ruin the movie for me whatsoever. But I'm thinking that's going a little too far. And I also think, as a small complaint, that everybody thinks his buddy is really funny. I think he breaks the mood sometimes with his humor. I think it's clashing with the rest of the movie. It comes out of nowhere, you know, and yeah, I wish he could have been a little, he could have put some humor in there, but just tame it down a little bit. So, but yeah, it's still a great movie. And I will say one thing about this movie, if I can say one commentary about these movies, because, you know, there's social messages in these movies and such. Some people might even call them woke. This is what I think they're doing, and I like this. I think when Get Out came out, and especially us, it's not like I'm interviewing people on the street and getting inside their head, but I have a feeling a lot of people were saying, "Oh, Us, it's that horror movie with black people." And I think the more movies we get, horror movies with a mostly black cast, the more we'll just call them horror movies. You know, we'll get over the with black people part of that. And I think that's a good thing. There you go.
He was influenced on Get Out because of like what Obama was going through. You know, proving your were you born in the United States? I think it was going on. And he was influenced by that as well.
Actually, I think he might have even been influenced by Ari Aster's first movie. People don't realize it wasn't Hereditary. It was a movie, something called something about the Johnsons. If no one has seen this, I highly advise the three of you and everyone watching to watch. It is probably the most disturbing movie you've ever seen. An entirely black cast, and that's not why it's disturbing. It's just the most disturbing movie about family, a hidden secret that a family's keeping, and it is so well done. I think it was made, if I'm not mistaken, it was like a short, but it was a fairly like a 30-minute short. Such a compelling movie.
What's it called again?
There's something about the Johnsons.
Something about the Johnsons.
You watch that movie, Pete, Dan, and Jamie. If anyone like Hereditary or anything that Ari Aster's done, Midsommar, this is what kickstarted everything. And this is before Mr. Jordan Peele. You know, and I agree with everything you just said, Jamie. Everything at the end, so 100% in agreement with that. But speaking of who maybe did it first, it was Ari Aster, and that movie is probably one of the most disturbing movies I've seen in a different way, not in a scary. It was scary in a fucked up way. Excuse my language. That I've seen in many, many years. So just a side note.
I'll have to check it out. Well, my number one is Us. I really enjoy this one quite a bit. I kind of like that it's like a tale of two movies, right? You have the first half is this weird, disturbing, creepy home invasion film. And then all of a sudden it turns into this wacky, like sci-fi epic. But again, most of his films are kind of like that. They're part this, part that, part something else. Not quite sure. It's like these mishmashes of different genres and styles and things like that. But I like the characters in here. I always liked the whole idea of like doppelgangers. I always thought that was pretty cool. And yeah, I don't know. I've watched this twice, and I liked it better the second time I saw it. Yeah, it's wacky, and I agree with Jamie. There's some stuff that goes on here that like is just, it just doesn't make sense. Like there's no way that would happen. But I think he just kind of went with it, and just this was his kind of like, I'm just going to throw everything but the kitchen sink in here and just see how it sticks. And I think it does. I find it highly entertaining, as unbelievable as it can be in spots. And yeah, it's my number one. But these were all good. They all have good elements.
Yeah, Us was my choice for number one up until like I watched Get Out one more time, and then I realized that Get Out stays pretty consistent or loyal.
I think Get Out is the three of them is the best realized from start to finish. I think it's the tightest script. I think it's probably the most intriguing story. Although Us has a really good story when you think about it. I just find there's a little bit more wow factor for me in Us. But they're all good. They all have their elements and their good things, and yeah, I'm really interested to see where he goes next. And it's like, so I don't know if he's working on one or there's no real info out there. I guess this is too new at this point. So I guess
we got sidetracked with the Twilight Zone series.
Yeah, I was feeling like
yeah.
he was going to burn up too many ideas at once with that show. And, he's no Rod Sterling.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Many hosts. And he wasn't really writing them. He was just hosting, correct? Did he? He didn't really get it. He was the host. He was becoming like the face of horror. But I want, to defend.
Oh, okay. I thought he was writing a lot of it.
Well, that's sort of like Rod Sterling in his second show, The Night Gallery. He wasn't writing those episodes either. He was just the host of that show.
Just hosting it. So they were playing him off as this. He's the new face of horror. To the point, actually, to Jordan Peele's credit, somebody had made a derogatory remark about John Carpenter. About we don't need somebody in interviews. We don't need John Carpenter anymore. And he just went up and just defended John Carpenter. He said, "I would not be making these films today.
It wasn't for
Had
him.
it not been for people like John Carpenter." And he was also inspired. He was also inspired by Night of the Living Dead with the black hero in the film.
Yeah.
And one thing that he has toned down was interesting. Get Out is, for lesser choice of word, there's a lot of racial overtones in this. The second film, to some extent, especially as the black family on the boardwalk in the beginning and . In Nope, he only mentions about the photographer Edward Muybridge, and the rider of the horse was a black man. The sister brings that up in the beginning of the film when they're with the horse at the audition or for the film, and that's it. After that, it goes strictly to the characters to be black, white. It doesn't matter. So he is kind of, when Jamie was saying about we won't say it, view it as a film with black actors. It just goes away, and eventually it becomes just a good horror film, a good sci-fi film. So without forcing it down your throat, where every show has to have a gay couple, an Asian best friend, like Hulu. I mean, with Hellraiser, you've got
we're talking about like inclusivity now.
Everybody's got to be included, and that kind of takes away a lot from it, And so this now he's going more towards I think he's just refining his craft, because I don't think he expected to have the success he did with Get Out, and I think he's
probably not. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see kind of how his career moves along, because I think there's always that fear with any hotshot new director that they're going to fall into the kind of like the M. Night Shyamalan trap, right? Who started out of the gate with 3 really good films, but each one was kind of a less or a version of the one before, and then
you do Lady in the Water.
Yeah, Lady in the Water.
Are we ever going to do a ranking, Pete, of M. Night Shyamalan movies? Because that's going to be interesting if we did.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe at some point, right? But
I'll have 5 tied for last place.
He's been, the last few he's done have been pretty good. He went through this lull in the middle, and now he's kind of like moving his way back. There have been some fairly decent ones. So we'll see where Jordan Peele goes. I don't know.
I still think, not saying with Drew, I still think that what do you call it? M. Night Shyamalan's The Sixth Sense, or Sixth whatever, with Bruce Willis and stuff.
Yeah, Sixth Sense.
That is a masterwork in its own right, because that started so many. This was pre-internet. So many like water cooler conversations. Like, no, he talked to the character, and you watch it a second and third time, and you realize, no, he had no interaction with any character in that film other than the flashbacks or the kid.
Yeah,
but that's surprising.
You don't notice it the first time around. You don't notice it at all, and then you
don't notice, and you realize, no, that's bullshit. And then people try to find it and kick it up and turn it over. No, it's just like, wow.
Dan, you're a historian, right? That surprise ending goes back to the cabinet of Dr. Caligari, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep,
as old as that. So
it's that's what everybody's influenced by everything that they watch and they do.
Yep.
But overall, Jordan Peele, I think he's got a bright future.
Yeah,
he goes back to comedy.
Yeah. So there you have it, everybody. A discussion, a look, a tear apart of Jordan Peele's 3 films. Rank them as you like them in the comments below. If you haven't seen them, go check them out. They're all highly entertaining. I think that's the important thing. So visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube all together all the damn time. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Very, very important. For Jamie Laszlo, Dan Brown, and Dan Mailer, I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next week here on
Happy New Year, everybody.
It's Happy New Year. That's
Happy
right.
New Year.
Take care. Bye-bye.